Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 246, Do You Dare Defy Me? Rayquaza was feeling extremely uneasy. The way Mega Rayquaza was looking at it, it felt dangerous. Meanwhile, Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre were already debating whether they should flee. They had clashed with this exact Mega Rayquaza before. It was an old rival. There was no mistaking its aura. It was definitely the same Mega Rayquaza. If they didn't leave now, they knew exactly how this would play out: first, a beating, then a forced retreat. That wasn't good. They had only just awakened, regained their lost orbs, and restored their full power, but against Mega Rayquaza? Primal Kyogre glanced at Primal Groudon, wondering what its old enemy would choose to do. Roar! Mega Rayquaza raised its head and let out a thunderous roar. A brilliantly pure sphere of energy, shimmering with cosmic radiance, shot high into the sky. Draco Meteor. This temper, TSK. Seeing Mega Rayquaza attack without a second thought, Dylan raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't it at least try intimidating Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre first, scaring them into retreat? But no, Mega Rayquaza skipped negotiations entirely and went straight to violence. The massive Draco Meteor exploded midair, sending countless blazing dragon meteors crashing down toward Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre. Sensing the imminent danger, Primal Kyogre immediately dove into the ocean, disappearing beneath the waves. Primal Groudon, however, let out an enraged roar and stood its ground. Mega Rayquaza's icy eyes narrowed. Twisting its elegant body, it dived at incredible speed, emerald light radiating from its form. Roar! Seeing Mega Rayquaza charging at it, Primal Groudon bellowed defiantly. It couldn't fly, but that didn't mean it was a coward. The incoming Draco meteors slammed into Primal Groudon, causing it to roar in pain, but it withstood the impact. Precipice Blades. Slamming its massive claws onto the ground, Primal Groudon summoned gigantic, molten blades of earth that surged upward, racing toward Mega Rayquaza. The green light surrounding Mega Rayquaza intensified, and its speed skyrocketed. In an instant, it transformed into a piercing emerald spear. Dragon Ascent. Before the lava blades could fully take shape, they were shattered to dust as Mega Rayquaza's Dragon Ascent tore through them like paper. The dazzling green comet streaked toward Primal Groudon, piercing straight through its body in a single, breathtaking strike. A perfect Dragon Ascent. By the time everyone's vision cleared, Mega Rayquaza was already behind Primal Groudon, its back turned. Primal Groudon's massive body trembled. Slowly, it tilted forward before collapsing onto the ground with a deafening crash. Everything had happened so fast that no one could even react. What? Lily gasped in shock. Cynthia, Wallace, and Stephen all widened their eyes in disbelief. How was it this strong? This wasn't even the same species as the Rayquaza that had been grabbed by the tail and slammed into the ground earlier. Mega Rayquaza turned, looking down at the struggling Primal Groudon. A deep, echoing hum suddenly came from beneath the ocean. Primal Kyogre burst out of the water, its jaws glowing with an icy blue light. Ice Beam. But before Mega Rayquaza even acknowledged the attack, another resounding dragon roar filled the air. In a blinding emerald flash, a second green streak sliced through Primal Kyogre's body. The Sea Titan let out an agonized wail as its ice beam dissipated, its massive body crashing helplessly back into the ocean. Splash! Water exploded into the air, but no one was watching the waves. Because standing beside Mega Rayquaza now was another identical figure. The same serpentine form, the same golden energy streaks, the same terrifying aura. Another Mega Rayquaza had appeared. And yet, this one was different. Its body was pitch black, darker than the deepest night. A shiny Mega Rayquaza. Dylan's eyes lit up instantly. T3 Rayquaza? Zinnia was completely dumbfounded. Leaf. Rayquaza felt its entire body go numb. Even its mother was here. Was it about to get double-teamed into oblivion? Cold sweat dripped from its forehead as it seriously considered running away. But under the watchful, imposing gazes of its parents, it didn't dare move. Roar! The black Mega Rayquaza let out a bone-chilling roar at Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre. Primal Groudon, which had just struggled back to its feet, instinctively took a step back. It wasn't afraid of a fight but taking on two Mega Rayquaza? Only an idiot would do that. Especially when the black one looked absolutely pissed. After all, they had attacked its child earlier. Primal Kyogre also rose from the water only to immediately turn around and fly off without a word. There was no hesitation. No second thoughts. It was out. With two Mega Rayquaza in the sky, only a fool would stay. Primal Kyogre had zero regrets. If anything, it was proud of itself for leaving so quickly. As for leaving Primal Groudon behind, not its problem. It wasn't obligated to help. It had already shown immense mercy by not staying behind to help Mega Rayquaza beat Primal Groudon senseless. The two Mega Rayquaza didn't stop Primal Kyogre from leaving. Instead, they both turned their piercing gazes onto Primal Groudon. Primal Groudon's body tensed instantly. Without a moment's hesitation, it slammed its claws into the ground and began furiously digging. Within seconds, the massive creature had buried itself underground. Well, one flew away. The other dug its way out. Dylan clicked his tongue in disappointment. He had been eyeing Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre, wondering if he should try capturing them. But damn, they ran fast. Well, there would always be another chance. That shiny Rayquaza. It's even stronger than the other Mega Rayquaza, Reshiram murmured through their mental link, its golden eyes filled with unease. The Rayquaza species is truly blessed. If you let me eat you, I wouldn't fear them either, Kyurem said calmly as it reverted to its normal form. Reshiram shrank back, puffing up its cheeks indignantly. This ugly ice dragon was so mean. It was always staring it for no reason. When it needed something, it was Big Brother. But the rest of the time? Ugly ice dragon. Big Bro is still the strongest. Even those two Mega Rayquaza aren't as good, Terrapagos chimed in confidently. Even though it knew it couldn't beat that shiny Mega Rayquaza, it didn't matter. Because their family had the real boss. Inside its Pokeball, Necrozma remained silent. Their mental link connected them all, so it had heard everything. Yeah. Me and Necrozma are unstoppable. Lunala chimed in, fully embracing its role as a sidekick. You're just a sidekick, what are you so proud of? Reshiram couldn't take it anymore and muttered in its heart. It used to think Lunala was just like it, a fellow slacker. But ever since Lunala fully embraced its role as a sidekick attachment, it had gotten way too cocky. Seriously, I go crazy with Necrozma? How could it even say that with a straight face? With the retreat of Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre, the crisis in the Hoenn region was officially over. Thank goodness. Thank goodness we had Dylan and the Rayquaza. A radiant smile spread across Wallace's handsome face, his mood noticeably lifted. Yes, no casualties, and the damage is within an acceptable range. That's already a great outcome. Stephen also let out a breath of relief. Because preparations had been made in advance, civilians were evacuated in time. While the environment had sustained some damage, it was within a manageable scope. But to think there were 3 Rayquaza, and one of them was even shiny. Unbelievable. Cynthia's bright eyes shimmered with fascination as she stared at the black Rayquaza in the sky. So powerful. So beautiful. As the group marveled, the 2 Mega Rayquaza had already descended before the regular Rayquaza. Father. Mother. Rayquaza stiffened but still mustered the courage to communicate through telepathy. Look at you, so useless. Mega Rayquaza glared at it with piercing dragon eyes. It's been 3,000 years, and you still haven't mastered Dragon Ascent. You couldn't even protect your own successor, got beaten up by Kyogre and Groudon, and needed to call us for help. How did I give birth to such a pathetic dragon? Mega Rayquaza was clearly short-tempered, furiously scolding Rayquaza on the spot. Rayquaza shrank its head back, looking utterly defeated. Enough, Green. The shiny Mega Rayquaza sighed and interrupted. It's not that I want to nag you, but Groudon and Kyogre were never enemies you could handle alone. Why didn't you call us sooner? After scolding Rayquaza for a while, the shiny Mega Rayquaza eventually let out a long sigh. Despite its child being a disappointment, it was still their only offspring. Rayquaza had been entrusted with overseeing this region while its father roamed the cosmos and its mother patrolled another territory. But today, Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre had awakened. If they hadn't arrived in time. Wait, no. Actually, nothing really would have happened. Mother, actually, I've already found a new successor. I think I'll be able to Mega Evolve very soon. Rayquaza quickly reassured them. Before father and mother arrived, it was my successor who stole Kyogre and Groudon. That human. The shiny Mega Rayquaza narrowed its eyes slightly, shifting its gaze toward Dylan. Reshiram. Kyurem. Terrapagos. Are you sure that human is your successor? Mega Rayquaza questioned, skeptical. It wasn't doubting Rayquaza, it was doubting that a human would actually choose Rayquaza. Honestly, it felt like its kid was ruining the Rayquaza family name. Of course, it's true. Rayquaza felt deeply wounded. Sure, it wasn't as strong as its parents, but was it really that undesirable? Not bad. Mega Rayquaza finally seemed slightly satisfied. Then it's fine. Green, try not to embarrass us anymore. The shiny Mega Rayquaza pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. Yes, yes, yes. Rayquaza nodded rapidly like a rattling drum. Despite Mega Rayquaza looking strict, in their family, his mother was the real authority. After all, Mega Rayquaza couldn't beat shiny Mega Rayquaza in a fight. Rayquaza vaguely remembered being only a few hundred years old when its mother got mad and chased its father across the skies, beating him senseless. If memory served correctly, it had taken centuries for its father to recover from that incident. All right, we'll be leaving now. Safe travels, father, mother. Watching his parents disappear into the distance, Rayquaza finally relaxed. Then, joy filled its heart. It didn't get beaten up today. You seem really afraid of your parents. Childhood trauma. Rayquaza sighed, but then, it paused. Turning its head, it noticed something strange. Dylan's aura had returned. The human had switched back from Leaf to Dylan again. But your mother is seriously cool, Dylan said, clicking his tongue in admiration. That black scales look way too awesome. Right? That's something unique to my mother. Rayquaza was genuinely envious. It thought its own emerald color was pretty cool too. It was, after all, the color of their species. But every time it saw its mother, Rayquaza couldn't help but feel a little jealous. That black body was just too badass. Dylan smirked slightly. No matter, it was only a matter of time before he collected the whole set. That shiny Mega Rayquaza? He was going to get it. But for now. Dylan's gaze shifted toward Rayquaza's green-scaled body, his mind turning. Alright, Rayquaza, according to our agreement, I am now your successor. No problem. From now on, I'll be in your care, human. Rayquaza was refreshingly straightforward. Dylan was strong, and it had no issue with him being its successor. Good. But I do need you to play along for something. Dylan glanced toward the distant island, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He had come up with a very interesting idea. On the island. The disguised Dylan had already recalled Kyurem, and Terrapagos had returned to its normal form, now perched on Dylan's shoulder. Reshiram landed gracefully, and Dylan hopped down. Few mission accomplished. The land and sea crisis has been resolved. Dylan smiled as he approached Wallace and the others. But Lily blinked. This isn't my brother. She wasn't sure how she knew, but her gut told her this is Leaf pretending to be Dylan.
Thank you, Gym Leader Dylan. We owe this all to you. Wallace flashed a dazzling smile. I didn't do much. In the end, it was Mega Rayquaza that. Roar!
Before Dylan could finish, a deafening dragon's roar shook the island.
Wallace and the others startled, immediately looking up.
Just in time to see Koraidon's collision course send Rayquaza flying. Rayquaza howled in pain, tumbling through the sky only for an Ultra Ball to suddenly shoot toward it. In front of everyone's stunned gazes, the Ultra Ball struck Rayquaza, converting it into red light before sealing it inside.
What? Cynthia and Steven's eyes widened in shock. That Koraidon belonged to Dylan, which meant Dylan was trying to forcibly capture Rayquaza?
Realizing this, the group immediately released their flying Pokémon and took off toward the Ultra Ball's location.
They had completely forgotten about Dylan and Zinnia. Beep beep beep. The Ultra Ball shook violently, its indicator light flashing nonstop, signaling that Rayquaza was struggling.
Ding! With a final crisp sound, the Ultra Ball came to a halt.
Ha 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 ha. I got it.
Aizen took the Ultra Ball, his gaze fixed on it.
His fair and handsome face twisted and twitched uncontrollably before he finally couldn't hold back his wild laughter. Aizen!
Wallace and Steve's voices rang out, filled with shock and fury, causing Aizen's laughter to pause.
What are you doing? Oh, you're here.
My apologies for letting you witness such an unseemly display. Aizen clasped the Ultra Ball in his hands and adjusted his glasses, once again presenting his usual refined and courteous demeanor.
As you can see, I've captured Rayquaza. Have you come to congratulate me?
Aizen spoke politely.
So this was all part of your plan, wasn't it, Aizen? Cynthia furrowed her brows.
No matter how they looked at it, the battle was supposed to be over, yet Aizen had emerged as the ultimate victor.
Everything went smoothly. Though Zinnia failed, it doesn't matter. I captured Rayquaza, so the result is the same.
Aizen's lips curled into a slow grin, but at this moment, his smile carried an unmistakable air of menace.
What exactly are you trying to do, Aizen? This is over. Steve's voice was low and serious. What am I trying to do? Aizen's smile gradually faded.
He let out a light chuckle as he slowly removed his non-prescription glasses and casually tossed them aside.
Do you understand, champions?
No one is born standing in the heavens, not you, not me, not even the gods. With a single sweep of his right hand, Aizen slicked his brown hair back, transforming it into a sharp, slicked-back style.
His expression turned icy, exuding an air of arrogance and dominance.
But the intolerable vacancy of the throne in the sky is about to end.
I have obtained Rayquaza. From this day forth, I shall stand above the heavens. Silence. The entire scene fell into stillness. Zinnia lowered her head, struggling to suppress her laughter. Meanwhile, Dylan and Lily exchanged extremely peculiar glances, yet their eyes shone with admiration. Big bro Dylan is way too cool. What did you just say?
Steve stared intently at Aizen, whose face now bore an air of cold arrogance.
Delusional.
Aizen, your ambitions will never come to fruition.
Cynthia's expression hardened. Oh?
Aizen let out a light chuckle, exuding an overwhelming presence.
I see. You intend to resist me? To challenge me, the one who possesses Rayquaza? Chapter 247, Wanted. You want to resist me, the one who possesses Rayquaza? Hearing Aizen's arrogant and overbearing words, Steven and the others' pupils shrank, and a surge of intense emotion shot straight up from their hearts. Damn it! Aizen!
Wallace gritted his teeth. If he weren't concerned about his own delicate and refined body, he would have seriously wanted to fight Aizen in person right now. How could someone be this arrogant? Aizen, don't get ahead of yourself. Just because you've captured Rayquaza doesn't mean the world is yours to control. Cynthia said coldly. Do you really think that obtaining Rayquaza makes you invincible? Steven stared intently at Aizen. As expected, this man was extremely dangerous. Of course not, Eisen replied with a faint smile, his cold gaze landing on Dylan. But it seems you all now understand that, aside from this one person, there is an insurmountable gap between us. The battle just now was truly spectacular. This is our first time meeting, isn't it, Gym Leader Dylan? Eisen's tone remained calm and composed, his voice deep and elegant, yet it no longer carried the gentleness he once had when he wore glasses.
I thought you had forgotten about me, Mr. Eisen. Dylan raised an eyebrow, perfectly mimicking his expression. Of course not. Gym Leader Dylan's strength is truly astonishing. Although I'd love to personally experience it, today doesn't seem to be the right occasion.
Eisen smiled faintly, but a hint of seriousness flickered in his eyes. Stephen, Cynthia, and Wallace all noticed this subtle change.
It made sense. Dylan's Curum and Terrapagos were undeniably powerful. Well then, everyone, we shall meet again.
Eisen was already preparing to retreat.
Eisen. Don't think you can just leave.
Of course, Stephen and the others had no intention of letting Eisen escape. From his earlier declaration, "I will stand above the heavens," it was clear that this guy had immense ambition.
Not to mention, Eisen was already extremely strong.
Now that he had captured Rayquaza, if they let him go, he would undoubtedly become a major threat to the Pokémon League in the future.
Hey, you won't be able to stop me. Eisen's lips curled up in a smirk, part mocking, part disdainful. Koraidon.
In an instant, Koraidon flew in front of Eisen, spreading its massive wings and flapping them with force.
A violent crimson wind surged outward. It was a fire-type heat wave. The scorching wind rushed toward them at an alarming speed. Heat wave. Dylan immediately ordered Reshiram to counter.
Reshiram opened its mouth and unleashed a heat wave of its own. The two raging heat waves collided and exploded violently, sending shockwaves in all directions, forcing everyone to lower their heads.
Damn it! Wallace, Stephen, and Cynthia all felt their hearts tighten. When Reshiram flapped its wings to clear away the smoke and dust, Eisen and Zinnia were already gone. Far in the distance, the small black silhouette of Hydreigon was rapidly fading from sight. That guy. Stephen frowned deeply. We can't catch up.
Eisen has captured Rayquaza without prior preparation. Stopping him would be incredibly difficult.
Dylan shook his head, then rubbed his chin thoughtfully. A trainer this powerful, and yet we've never heard of him before. Dylan was genuinely puzzled.
According to the intel, he's a trainer from Unova, but we don't know if that's true, Wallace said, his handsome face creased with concern. The joy they had felt from seeing Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre retreat was now completely gone.
We need to investigate this immediately.
Eisen is extremely dangerous, and now that he has Rayquaza, if he successfully Mega Evolves it. Even for me, defeating him will become incredibly difficult.
Dylan spoke solemnly.
Everyone had just witnessed the overwhelming power of Mega Rayquaza firsthand, so they all understood the gravity of the situation.
These are troubling times. Stephen sighed helplessly. And Zinnia actually left with him as well, Dylan added with a light sigh.
Stephen was startled. Right, his focus had been entirely on Eisen, and he had completely overlooked Zinnia. She had left with him too. Now that the battle between land and sea was over and Rayquaza had been captured by Eisen, Zinnia's alliance with him should have ended. But she still chose to follow him. That meant the two of them likely had further plans.
Stephen? Wallace and Cynthia came to the same realization and turned to look at Stephen.
I need to return to Rustboro City immediately.
Stephen's heart pounded anxiously.
Forget Eisen, even Zinnia was a highly skilled champion-level trainer who had mastered Mega Evolution.
If they targeted his father, they could take him down effortlessly. My father is guilty.
I will personally see to it that he faces justice under the League's authority. Gym Leader Dylan, if you happen to contact Zinnia, please convey this message.
My father will atone for his mistakes.
But please, spare his life. Stephen hesitated for a moment before speaking in a low voice to Dylan. He knew this was disgraceful, but as a son, he couldn't just stand by and watch his father suffer harm.
I can't reach Zinnia right now either. Dylan shook his head.
Stephen looked slightly dejected but still bowed politely to Dylan and Cynthia before hurriedly flying off on Metagross, dialing his father's number as he went. In truth, he hadn't contacted his father in a long time. Ever since their last open and honest conversation, Stephen had refused to take his calls.
Sigh. Uncle really messed up this time. Wallace watched his best friend's departing figure and let out a helpless sigh. It was Stephen's father who was in the wrong, Cynthia murmured, rubbing her temples wearily. She didn't want to discuss the grudge between Stephen's father and Zinnia any further.
In her eyes, Joseph Stone had been in the wrong.
More than anything, Cynthia finally felt the exhaustion catch up to her. Today had been overwhelming.
Even for her, it had been quite the thrill ride. Although the outcome wasn't ideal, and the biggest beneficiary of this whole ordeal was an extremely dangerous individual, there was nothing they could do about it now.
Miss Cynthia, gym leader Dylan, you've both worked hard. Let's head back to Setopolis City. Wallace, also feeling drained, spoke to the two of them. The group began their return flight, with Dylan having Res Hiram pick up Lily before they headed for Setopolis City. Elsewhere. On a desolate island, Hydreigon landed. What are you planning to do next? Dylan toyed with Rayquaza's Pokeball as he looked at Zinnia and asked. The battle between land and sea had ended, and Rayquaza was now under his command. In the end, Zinnia had gained nothing from all of this. In fact, now that Rayquaza belonged to him, strictly speaking, the title of inheritor should rightfully be his. The prophecy of my people is yours to fulfill now, Dylan. Zinnia remained silent for a moment before lifting her head again with a fearless, carefree smile. Being rejected by Rayquaza had been a devastating blow to her. For a moment, she had even felt like her entire life had lost its meaning. You are the inheritor now, Dylan. But now that Rayquaza had chosen Dylan, she felt that this was fine. He was strong enough to fulfill the prophecy and handle the impending meteor crisis. It's a relief to no longer carry that burden. From now on, I plan to avenge Aster. This is my personal matter. Zinnia spoke lightly. For so long, she had carried the hopes of the Draconid people, and because of that, she had suppressed her desire for revenge over her sister's death. But now, she could finally seek retribution. Aster wouldn't have wanted you to live like this. Dylan frowned slightly, hesitated for a moment, but still chose to say it. She was an immensely powerful Dragon-type champion-level trainer, yet in reality, Zinnia was incredibly tragic. The burden of her sister's death and the fate of her people had always weighed heavily on her. When it came down to it, Zinnia had never truly lived for herself. I understand. Zinnia looked up at Dylan and smiled. But I can't let it go, Dylan. The image of Aster's death has never left my mind. I need to get justice for her. I see. Dylan remained silent. He wanted to help her move on from her past, but at the same time, he understood her feelings. I've already investigated. The Rayquaza capture plan from back then, it was the Pokemon Association in Johto that orchestrated it. Dylan said. A bunch of corrupt cowards feeding off their titles. I'll go with you. Thank you, Dylan. Zinnia smiled brightly. Setopolis City. Yes, it's been taken care of, Chairman. That's right, in the end, Rayquaza was captured by someone named Eisen. In Wallace's home, Dylan sat in the living room, having a video call with Chairman Goodshow. Eisen, huh? Understood. I'll notify the other regional leagues. On the screen, Goodshow furrowed his graying brows. The legendary ancient Pokemon, the Sky Dragon itself, had fallen into the hands of a dangerous individual. That was definitely not good news. That Eisen, he's very strong, isn't he? Goodshow pondered for a moment. Extremely strong, Chairman. Even when Stephen and I teamed up, we could only barely suppress him, and that wasn't even him going all out. A melodic yet serious voice answered. Cynthia, holding a cup of tea, spoke calmly. This voice? Oh, it's Cynthia. Goodshow was briefly surprised before recognition dawned.
Since he often visited different regions, he was quite familiar with the champions and higher-ups of various Pokemon leagues.
Chairman Goodshow, it's been a while. Cynthia gave a graceful smile and nodded in greeting. Indeed, it has been some time. But, is Aizen really that strong? Even with you and Steven together, you could only barely suppress him? Goodshow's frown deepened.
We were only holding back an Aizen who wasn't even fighting at full strength. If he truly unleashed his full power, I'm afraid even Steven and I wouldn't stand a chance. Thinking back to that monstrous Koraidon, Cynthia corrected Goodshow with a serious tone.
This is troubling.
A trainer this powerful, yet involved with criminal organizations.
Goodshow sighed, rubbing his temples.
The Rocket Team situation had already exhausted him, and now another dangerous figure had appeared.
But thankfully, we have the undefeated Dylan.
Even Aizen can be challenged. However, the moment he saw Dylan's figure on the screen, Goodshow immediately felt reassured.
That's right, Dylan of Kanto was undefeated. Name, Aizen. Gender, male.
Description, brown-haired, around 20 years old, often wears a white coat, approximately 186 centimeters in height. Main Pokemon, Rayquaza, Koraidon, Hydreigon, Zoroark, Annihilape, Grimmsnarl, Kingambit.
Strength, champion level.
Appears refined and gentlemanly, but is actually cold, ruthless, and extremely dangerous.
As Dylan skimmed through the wanted notice Goodshow had sent over, he read it with amusement.
At the top was a strikingly handsome photo of Aizen, probably secretly taken by Wallace or someone else.
Interesting.
That final scene had actually been a spur-of-the-moment idea. The truth was, this Aizen persona had proven to be incredibly convenient.
Dylan had always enjoyed excitement, but given his current status, there were many things he couldn't openly do.
That was why the identity of Aizen was so necessary.
To solidify Aizen's reputation, Dylan had intentionally captured Rayquaza under that name. Of course, this meant that as Dylan, he couldn't publicly use Rayquaza anymore.
But that wasn't a big deal. After all, both identities were him.
Who cared which one was using it?
Besides, there were still 2 other Rayquaza out there, he could just capture those 2.
There were so many things he could accomplish under the identity of Aizen. This wanted notice needs to be distributed across all regions.
Wallace spoke with absolute seriousness. He firmly believed that Aizen was too chaotic and dangerous, something he had learned firsthand.
I'll have the Sinnoh League issue a warrant once I return.
However, I just checked with Champion Alder, he said he's never heard of a powerful trainer named Aizen from Unova.
Cynthia said thoughtfully, though she seemed a little disappointed. That's not surprising.
Even if they were in the same region, someone like Aizen, if he wanted to stay hidden, no one would find him.
Wallace reasoned.
Over the past few days, his worldview had completely shifted.
There were people like Dylan and Aizen out there? That was utterly absurd. Speaking of Rayquaza? Dylan sipped his tea, that same irresistible thought surfacing in his mind again.
Reaching out through telepathic communication, he connected with Rayquaza.
What is it? Rayquaza asked, puzzled. You want to change skins? Chapter 248, I'm definitely going to win. Change skins? Inside the Pokeball, Rayquaza's mind filled with question marks. What did that even mean?
It had long accepted that its inheritor had plenty of strange ideas, like the time he made Rayquaza put on a show, pretending to be captured by one of his alternate identities.
Well, actually, it wasn't even pretending. It had been captured. But this whole change skins thing? Rayquaza really couldn't wrap its head around it. Was he asking it to wear human clothes? Rayquaza, human technology has advanced a lot.
As far as I know, there's a lightweight, waterproof, and durable dye that doesn't harm scales or skin.
Rayquaza was still completely lost.
To put it simply, this will let you turn black, just like your mother.
Exactly the same. Dylan decided to be more direct.
As long as the paint doesn't wear off, no one will be able to tell the difference just from appearances.
Rayquaza instantly understood Mother's black night-colored scales. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, another day had gone by. The awakening of Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon and their battle in the Hoenn Seas had sparked massive attention. After all, the Primordial Sea and Desolate Land had temporarily covered most of Hoenn. Cities near the battlefield, like Setopolis and Slateport, saw large-scale evacuations. Under these circumstances, it was impossible for the Hoenn League to keep things under wraps, not that they even tried. The criminal organizations Team Magma and Team Aqua, in pursuit of their selfish ambitions, awakened the superancient Pokémon Groudon and Kyogre, leading to a catastrophic battle that posed an unprecedented threat. Their crimes are unforgivable. But justice prevails. Under the leadership of Champion Wallace and Mr. Steven, along with the assistance of Sinnoh Champion Cynthia and Kanto's gym leader Dylan, the league successfully captured the leaders and key members of Team Magma and Team Aqua. The disaster of the land and sea war was averted, protecting the Hoenn region. The Hoenn League sincerely thanks all those who contributed to this effort. Official statement from the Hoenn League. The Hoenn League acted swiftly, releasing a statement to reassure the frightened citizens. And it worked well. Most people didn't fully understand how severe the situation had been, but as long as they knew the crisis had been resolved, that was enough. Dylan, as a gym leader, had gained a surge of popularity in Hoenn. However, it was worth noting that the Hoenn League had not mentioned Aizen or Zinnia at all. It was unclear what their reasoning was. At the same time, another shocking piece of news spread. Devon Corporation's president, Joseph Stone, had voluntarily turned himself in at Lumiose City the previous day. He had been immediately imprisoned. According to reports, Joseph had been sentenced to 20 years in prison. 20 years! Devon Corporation was the largest company in Hoenn. In terms of influence and wealth, no other business even came close. Yet its president had been sentenced to 20 years. This news shocked not only the people of Hoenn but also sparked discussions worldwide. For now, Devon Corporation was being managed by its vice president. Before going to prison, Joseph had transferred all his shares to Steven, but Steven had no interest in running the company. All he cared about now was finding Zinnia and doing whatever he could to make amends, hoping she might forgive his father. Joseph Stone still has some sense. When Dylan heard the news, he found himself respecting the man, at least a little. Although it had come years too late, Joseph had finally chosen to take responsibility. Ultimately, he wasn't the true mastermind. His 20-year sentence was his way of showing Zinnia where he stood. Otherwise, considering his contributions to Hoenn over the years, there was no way he would have received such a heavy sentence. For reference, even high-ranking Rocket executives like Ariana and Archer, whose crimes were far worse, had only received 20-year sentences. Lumiose City. This was the capital of the Hoenn League, home to the league headquarters. Dylan and the others had arrived here and reunited with Steven. He looked exhausted, which wasn't surprising. His father had just been sent to prison. The Hoenn League chairman personally welcomed Dylan and Cynthia, expressing his gratitude and presenting them with gifts on behalf of the league. Even though they were all part of the Pokémon League and helping each other was natural, proper gratitude was still necessary. Otherwise, it would just seem ungrateful. And so, Dylan received a Beldum, while Cynthia was given a Bagon. Cynthia looked slightly troubled. She did like Bagon's Salamence was an incredibly strong Pokémon, and Zinnia's Salamence had proven that its Mega Evolution had immense potential. But the problem was, her Garchomp was already 4 times weak to ice. And now she had a Salamence also 4 times weak to ice. Cynthia was a multi-type trainer, and honestly, Metagross would have fit her team much better. After all, as a Steel/Psychic type, Metagross was just as strong as Salamence but had far better resistances. But seeing the enthusiastic league chairman, Cynthia quietly accepted the Bagon. She was sure that if she asked to swap for a Beldum, the chairman would agree without any complaints. But Cynthia just couldn't bring herself to ask. Outside of battle, she had a naturally calm and reserved personality. Bagon was just as valuable as Beldum. It was a strong Pokémon in its own right. Cynthia just felt like Metagross would suit her team better. Chairman, I don't think you're very familiar with Miss Cynthia. Dylan glanced at Cynthia before turning to the Hoenn League chairman with a smile.
The chairman, a man named Shiloh, was actually in his 60s.
Oh? What do you mean, gym leader Dylan? Shiloh asked curiously. Cynthia's team already has a main dragon/flying type Pokemon. Compared to Bagon, I think she would prefer Beldum. Dylan spoke with a light-hearted tone. Oh, I see. That was my mistake.
Shiloh immediately understood and patted his bald head with an embarrassed chuckle. His thought process had been simple. Since Dylan already had a Salamence, it made sense to give him Beldum. Meanwhile, in Hoenn, the two most valuable Pokemon were Beldum and Bagon, so he had naturally chosen to give Cynthia the latter.
Without hesitation, Shiloh arranged for the trade. Although both Beldum and Bagon were rare, the Hoenn League had access to a limited supply. Considering how much Dylan and Cynthia had done for Hoenn, Shiloh was more than happy to provide them with valuable Pokemon. Cynthia accepted the Beldum and discreetly cast a glance of gratitude toward Dylan, who simply smiled back. Afterward, Shiloh enthusiastically invited them to dinner.
He ended up drinking too much and had to be carried out by his assistants.
After dinner, Dylan and the others took a walk to clear their heads.
They had been drinking, after all.
Dylan, have you really never considered moving to Hoenn? Wallace's pale face was flushed from the alcohol as he warmly extended an invitation. He wouldn't dare try to recruit Cynthia, she was the champion of Sinnoh. But Dylan? That was fair game.
If you join the Hoenn League, I'll give up the champion title to you, and Steven and I will become your Elite Four. Trust me, if the three of us work together, we could make Hoenn stronger than ever.
Steven, what do you think?
For once, Wallace was speaking boldly. He had never been attached to the title of champion. If anything, he preferred being a gym leader, as it gave him more time to participate in Pokemon contests.
If Dylan were willing to come to Hoenn, Wallace would gladly become one of his Elite Four. Cynthia glanced at Wallace.
For someone with such a refined and elegant appearance, he sure had some ambitious ideas. If Dylan were the champion, I wouldn't mind being an Elite Four member. Steven thought about it seriously before responding. Compared to being champion, being in the Elite Four gave him more freedom, more time to dig for rare stones.
And with Dylan as champion, Hoenn really could become a dominant force in the Pokemon League.
After all, Chairman Goodshow was already getting old. He wouldn't be in charge for much longer. When he stepped down, Hoenn could push to claim the position of league president.
Put.
Lily covered her mouth, giggling. She had seen this before.
Wallace, you know, Alder said the exact same thing to me once. Dylan chuckled. Wallace blinked, then immediately understood. That doesn't count.
Alder's already old, but Steven and I are still young. If the three of us join forces, even the Kanto Elite Four wouldn't be a threat.
Wallace wasn't giving up.
He had no idea what kind of offer Alder had made to Dylan, but in his eyes, it couldn't have been anything special.
Unova? That region had already been looted beyond repair, hadn't it?
Even their legendary Pokemon, the White Dragon and the Ice Dragon, had been taken away by Dylan.
Forget people, they didn't even have legends left. How could they possibly compare to Hoenn? With Dylan as champion and him and Steven as Elite Four, wouldn't that be completely unstoppable? No issues with that.
Steven fully agreed with his best friend's idea.
Wallace, you really know how to joke around. Dylan never needed help to stand against the Kanto Elite Four. Cynthia couldn't listen anymore.
What do you mean, if they team up, they won't fear the Kanto Elite Four?
Dylan alone could flatten the Kanto Elite Four. Why would he need these two?
I appreciate your kindness, Wallace, but I have no plans to change regions right now.
Being a gym leader is quite fun. Dylan chuckled. Why did all these champions keep trying to recruit him?
It was like they were all trying to poach him from Kanto.
Dylan could only sigh, his damn irresistible charm. Fine, then how about we exchange gym leader experiences? Dylan, I used to be the strongest gym leader in Hoenn. Seeing that persuasion wasn't working, Wallace switched tactics. Oh? Dylan became intrigued. Wallace wasn't bluffing. As a champion-level trainer, he had previously served as the gym leader of Sootopolis City's gym.
He really had been Hoenn's strongest gym leader, or rather, one of the strongest gym leaders in the world. He wasn't necessarily among the strongest champions, but as a gym leader, Wallace was undoubtedly among the best.
"Wallace, do you want to try challenging my gym?" Dylan smiled.
"I heard your gym is quite unique.
"And aren't you working on a water-type team?"
This would be the perfect opportunity to challenge your gym with my own water team." Wallace was confident. His mastery of water types was something he took great pride in. "I heard that ever since your gym introduced its new challenge mode, the success rate has been 0. Stephen was also quite curious.
He had made sure to gather information about Dylan's Lantern gym.
"Oh, that's right. While some people have obtained some badges, none of them actually won it by defeating my brother in a gym challenge."
Lily beamed.
"But it's not like my brother just overpowered everyone, he always adjusts his Pokémon to match the challenger's strength."
Lily quickly added that important detail.
"Otherwise, outsiders might think Dylan was just using his strongest Pokémon to crush challengers."
"Looks like your gym's undefeated streak is about to be broken today." Wallace confidently flipped his blue hair. Come on, he was the champion of Hoenn. A mere gym challenge, how could he possibly lose? Dylan wasn't even going to use his real powerhouse team. How could I lose?
If he actually lost and people found out, he might as well just step down as champion.
You're really confident, Wallace. Dylan smiled at him. Let's find a nearby battle arena, then.
The group of 5 headed toward a nearby battle facility, while Lily sent a message to Leaf. There was no helping it, Leaf wasn't in a position to join them right now. Dylan had simply handed her a bank card and sent her off on a shopping spree. Leaf was currently having the time of her life, she had never shopped this freely before.
Champion Wallace, if you want to challenge my brother, you'll need to spin for your battle type first. At the battle facility, Lily pulled out a small roulette wheel from her bag. Interesting.
Wallace and the others were intrigued. Poison, Dark, Ghost, Dragon, Grass, Fire, Normal, and the Golden Legend.
Stephen read through the list. Including the Golden Legend option, there were 8 different teams. Cynthia was also curious. Dylan is skilled in this many types? I definitely don't want this one.
Wallace's eye twitched when he saw the small golden section on the wheel. He had done his research on Dylan's gym rules.
That golden section meant Dylan would use an all-legendary team, a team where he didn't bother adjusting strength for challengers. Because it didn't matter.
Dylan's legendary team was his strongest setup, and unlike his other type-themed teams, it wasn't something he could replicate with weaker Pokémon. Wallace placed his pale, slender hand on the spin button, and the wheel began to rotate rapidly. He stared intently at the needle as it slowed down, eventually landing on a gray section. Inside the section was a white circle with 2 small dots, the normal type symbol.
Normal type, huh? Wallace's ocean blue eyes sparkled, and he instantly felt much more at ease. Normal types weren't difficult to deal with. This was in the bag. I'm Wallace, the champion of Hoenn. I'm definitely going to win. Chapter 249, this what you call Normsal? Normal type?
Seeing the attribute Wallace had drawn, Cynthia and Stephen both fell into thought. Among all the Pokémon types, Normal was generally considered one of the most unremarkable. While it was immune to Ghost-type moves, Ghost types were also immune to Normal-type attacks. It had no type advantages but was resisted by both Rock and Steel types.
Fighting types outright countered it.
In summary, in terms of both offensive and defensive capabilities, mediocre was the best way to describe it.
And as for experts in Normal-type Pokémon? Cynthia and Stephen thought for a moment. Were there any well-known trainers in the world who specialized in Normal types?
There was one in Norman, the gym leader of Petalburg City. As far as Stephen knew, Norman was actually an Elite 4 level trainer and one of Hoenn's Elite 4 candidates.
But aside from Norman, Stephen couldn't think of anyone else. Then I'll act as the referee.
Golden hair swayed gently as Cynthia elegantly walked to the center of the battlefield, her gaze sweeping across Dylan and Wallace, who had taken their positions.
The Rota Gym Challenge match will now begin. The challenger is Wallace from the Hoenn region. The battle format will be 5v5. Gym leader Dylan will send out his Pokemon first and cannot switch Pokemon. If all 5 of his Pokemon are defeated, the challenger will be declared the winner. The battle begins. Cynthia gave a slight bow to both of them before gracefully stepping back to the sidelines. As expected of Miss Cynthia, such a professional match announcement. Wallace's handsome face lit up with a perfect smile, exuding elegance and nobility. Indeed, but this is our time now, Wallace. Dylan nodded and smiled. Since this is your first time challenging my gym, let me introduce myself properly. Dylan casually loosened the collar of his shirt. His movements were slow and refined. I am Dylan, the leader of the Rota Gym and a multi-type trainer. Today, I will be using a normal-type team against you. Wallace, have you studied normal-type Pokemon? Do you have experience battling against them? Dylan put on a pair of black gloves, tilting his head slightly as he looked at Wallace. No worries. Today, you will experience a new kind of normal-type Pokemon. They may be called normal, but they are anything but. Wallace, I hope you'll appreciate their strength. Oh! Wallace's eyes sparkled. What an excellent opening! The gestures, the tone, everything had such style. Yes, as the Hoenn champion, Wallace fully approved of Dylan's flair. My first Pokemon will be this one. Dylan enlarged the Pokeball in his hand and tossed it out with a smooth motion. Smeargle! Get ready for battle! A flash of white light revealed a Smeargle standing on 2 legs in front of Dylan. Smeargle? Wallace blinked in surprise. Hardly anyone used Smeargle in battle. Or rather, from the time he became a trainer until now, Wallace had rarely, if ever, seen anyone use Smeargle as a core team member. Most people simply kept Smeargle as a pet, primarily because its overall battle strength was incredibly low. Sure, its sketch move was an interesting gimmick, but that was about it. A Smeargle, huh? I wonder what moves Dylan had at sketch. Steven was very curious. Rotom Pokédex, could you analyze it for us? Cynthia was equally intrigued. Of course, Rotom Pokédex immediately responded. Deep Smeargle, normal type, the painter Pokemon. Ability, Moody. Moves, Sketch, Wicked Torque, Dark Void, Sacred Fire, Ho-Oh, Shadow Sneak, Fire Pledge, Plasma Fists, Fake Out, Parting Shot. Description: the liquid secreted from the tip of its tail changes color depending on Smeargle's emotions. As Rotom Pokédex finished listing Smeargle's moves, both Steven and Cynthia's expressions shifted dramatically. Steven's mouth slowly fell open. What was this? What had he just heard? The first few moves already made no sense, but the ones at the end, none of them were remotely normal. What kind of monster Smeargle is this? Steven couldn't help but voice his thoughts. Now he fully understood what Dylan had meant earlier when he said, they may be called normal, but they are anything but. Cynthia, too, was looking at Smeargle differently now. If she had to describe it, it was as if she were staring at some sort of freakish anomaly. Then I'll use this one. On the battlefield, Wallace was unaware of Steven and Cynthia's reactions. After some thought, he gracefully opened his Pokeball. Ludicolo. Ludicolo leaped into the battlefield, its round, plump body bouncing slightly. Its expression remained cheerful and carefree. A very upbeat and positive Pokemon. By now, a large crowd had gathered around the battle arena. After all, Lumio City had plenty of residents. Oh, isn't that Champion Wallace? And Steven is here too. That must be Sinnoh's champion Cynthia, right? And the guy battling Wallace is gym leader Dylan from Kanto. The one the Hoenn League mentioned in their announcement. This is amazing. We get to see Champion Wallace battle. And Dylan is really handsome too. Wait, is this a gym challenge? A champion challenging a gym leader? I've never seen that before. The spectators whispered among themselves, remaining respectful so as not to disrupt the match. Neither Dylan nor Wallace paid much attention. Public battles like this were routine for them.
Among the crowd, a slender, fair-skinned girl with bright eyes curiously observed Dylan and Wallace's battle.
The challenger gets the first move. Dylan gestured toward Wallace. Then I won't hold back. Wallace didn't hesitate.
He had been a gym leader himself, so he understood gym battle rules well.
Wallace raised his hand elegantly. Ludicolo, fake out. Fake out. Dylan chuckled and gave the same command.
Ludicolo and Smeargle charged toward each other at high speed, both using the normal-type move fake out.
Wallace was slightly surprised. Smeargle sketched fake out too? Slap. Ludicolo and Smeargle swung their palms simultaneously. A crisp smack rang through the air. But it was Ludicolo that was hit first. Ludicolo clutched its cheek, momentarily stunned, and took 2 unsteady steps backward.
Wallace's beautiful eyebrows furrowed slightly.
Smeargle's speed was actually faster than his Ludicolo's? Dylan wasn't surprised.
Smeargle's base stats were terrible, but its speed was one of its least terrible stats.
Coincidentally, Ludicolo's speed was even lower than Smeargle's. That was why Smeargle had landed fake out first. Dark Void.
Taking advantage of Ludicolo's flinch, Dylan gave his next command.
Dark Void? Wallace was momentarily caught off guard. What kind of move was that?
Smeargle twirled its paintbrush-like tail, gathering dark energy that swirled into a pitch-black sphere before launching it at Ludicolo. Ludicolo had just recovered from its flinch, but Dark Void was incredibly fast.
Smeargle had practiced this fake-out into Dark Void combo countless times. Its execution was flawless.
Just as Ludicolo stepped forward, the black sphere engulfed it completely, eerie and silent.
What is that move? Wallace was stunned. He had never seen it before. Where had Smeargle sketched this from?
As the black sphere faded, Ludicolo reappeared, fast asleep, snoring loudly.
Wallace. That was Darkray's signature move, Dark Void. It puts opponents to sleep. Dylan explained with a smile.
Wallace's eyelid twitched.
So it was a mythical Pokémon's exclusive move.
Smeargle's body briefly glowed white before dimming again. That was its moody ability activating. Its speed increased by 2 stages, while its physical attack dropped by 1.
Are you going to switch it out?
Wallace hesitated. His Ludicolo did no sleep talk, but that move was unpredictable.
Then again, Ludicolo's defenses were decent. Smeargle's attack power wasn't great. How much damage could it really do? And besides,
he had sleep talk. Ludicolo, use sleep talk. Wallace decided. Ludicolo suddenly jolted upright, eyes still shut tight, but energy gathered in its mouth. It was using Hydro Pump.
Dodge it.
Use Freeze Dry.
Dylan chuckled.
Smeargle swiftly dodged Ludicolo's Hydro Pump and spun its tail, forming an icy blue energy sphere.
Ice-type Freeze Dry. Ludicolo.
Wallace's expression changed.
Freeze Dry. An ice-type move specifically designed to counter water types. Normally, ice moves weren't very effective against water types. But Freeze Dry was different. It was super effective against water types.
And Ludicolo was a water/grass Pokémon.
That meant Freeze Dry neutralized Ludicolo's resistance to ice, and since grass was already weak to ice, Freeze Dry was quadruple effective against Ludicolo. A frigid blast of ice shot forward, striking the sleeping Ludicolo directly. Under the intense frost, Ludicolo let out a pained groan.
Smeargle's special attack wasn't great, but with a 4 times effectiveness multiplier, the damage was substantial.
Return, Ludicolo. Without hesitation, Wallace recalled his still sleeping Ludicolo.
He hadn't expected Dylan to have his Smeargle sketch Freeze Dry as well. Steven, on the other hand, really wanted to tell Wallace something.
That Smeargle in front of him? It was basically a living move encyclopedia. And it had plenty of bizarre, almost nonsensical moves. I underestimated your Smeargle, Dylan.
Wallace stared at the seemingly harmless Smeargle, his usually elegant expression turning serious.
Who would have thought that this little guy would cause so much trouble for his Ludicolo? But no matter. This time, he was getting serious. Let's continue. Dylan smiled, gesturing for the match to proceed. This is just getting started. Gyarados. It's your turn. Wallace, as graceful as ever, released his second Pokémon. Roar.
With a deafening roar, a massive, menacing Gyarados landed in front of Wallace, exuding overwhelming presence. Wallace's ace Gyarados, a Pokémon of incredible strength.
Intimidate.
Gyarados let out a deep, rumbling growl, unleashing an invisible pressure that instantly lowered Smeargle's attack by one stage. But just as quickly, Smeargle's body shimmered with white light before fading. It was Moody activating again. This time, its special attack increased by 2 stages, while its defense decreased by 1. At this point, Smeargle's stat changes were Attack-2 special attack plus 2 defense-1 speed plus 2.
Dylan, my Gyarados is much stronger than Ludicolo.
Wallace had regained his confidence, giving a commanding gesture toward Gyarados.
Gyarados. Use a dazzling aqua tail.
Gyarados let out a mighty roar, its massive tail enveloped in a swirling torrent of water as it charged at Smeargle. As it swung, droplets of water scattered beautifully in the air. After all, Wallace was also a masterclass Pokémon coordinator. He always believed himself to be an artist of water.
Aqua tail, huh? Dylan raised an eyebrow, briefly considering his options for defensive moves.
Fire Pledge, Baneful Bunker, Spiky Shield.
Fire Pledge.
In the end, Fire Pledge seemed like the best choice after all. His opponent was a Gyarados. Smeargle swung its tail, summoning raging red flames that surged up to form a protective barrier around itself. This Fire Pledge had been sketched from Reshiram's blue flare.
What is this?
Wallace was briefly stunned before his brows furrowed.
He had a bad feeling about this. This flame-like protect move. Boom!
Gyarados' aqua tail smashed against the Fire Pledge barrier with a loud impact. Water clashed violently against the flames, but the flames held firm.
And then,
like a creeping curse, the flames clung to Gyarados' tail, burning their way into its body.
Gyarados instinctively recoiled, but before it could escape completely. FOOM. Suddenly, its entire body erupted in flames. Gyarados let out a pained, guttural roar.
Wallace's face darkened instantly. No doubt about it, Gyarados was burned. And Gyarados was a pure physical attacker. Getting burned was almost as bad as being knocked out.
Dylan. Wallace's expression twitched as he gritted his teeth. Wallace, you don't recognize this move? Fire Pledge is an exclusive move of Reshiram.
Any Pokémon that comes into contact with it is inflicted with a burn.
Dylan smiled as he explained.
I figured as much, but... Wallace's usual beautiful, refined face was now frozen in an awkward half-smile, one that looked way too forced.
Wallace is so unlucky.
Stephen felt genuine sympathy for his best friend. But this was also really entertaining.
First, Ludicolo fell asleep.
Now, Gyarados was burned.
Both of them were essentially out of commission before they could do anything.
In the blink of an eye, Wallace had effectively lost 2 of his strongest Pokémon.
And the worst part? Neither of them had even landed a single hit on that stupid dog. You're using a normal-type team, right? Then why the hell hasn't your Smeargle used a single normal-type move?
Dark Void, Fire Pledge, these moves were way too annoying.
Was this thing even legal? Chapter 250, Are You Even Human? Looks like Champion Wallace is completely on the back foot. Why does this Smeargle feel completely different from mine? How many moves has it sketched? How did it even manage that? And half the moves don't even make sense. That Fire Pledge, it's a nightmare for close combat fighters.
I seriously doubt that Smeargle is legit. The crowd whispered among themselves, their voices filled with shock, skepticism, and even jealousy.
Smeargle wasn't exactly a rare Pokémon, but using a Smeargle to completely suppress Hoenn's Champion Wallace?
That was just ridiculous.
Amazing. With the battle one-sided so far, Cynthia couldn't help but admire Dylan's tactics. Having the right moves can change the flow of battle completely. And Dylan's Smeargle, its move pool is just way too vast. Stephen wholeheartedly agreed. Smeargle's only real strength was its ability to sketch moves. The Pokemon itself wasn't that strong. Dylan's Smeargle was no exception. Even with a quadruple effective freeze-dry against Ludicolo, it hadn't even managed to land a critical hit. That already said a lot. But its range of moves was just absurd. Seeing the amazed expressions of the people around her, Lily's delicate, fair face lit up with a bright, proud smile. On the battlefield, Dylan spread his hands innocently at Wallace's exasperated remark. "Wallace, you must be joking. Didn't Smeargle already use Fake Out? Who said Smeargle hadn't used a normal type move? It opened the match with Fake Out." Wallace's mouth twitched. Fine. In that case, Gyarados, use Hydro." Wallace quickly regained his composure. As Hoenn's champion, there was no way he'd lose to this damn dog. No matter how annoying it was, at the end of the day, it was just a Smeargle. There was no way it could overpower his Gyarados. Even with a burn, Gyarados' strength was leagues beyond what a Smeargle could handle. Smeargle's body glowed again. Moody had activated. Its attack increased by 2 stages, while its speed dropped by 1. Encore. Before Wallace could even finish his command, Dylan cut him off. "Wallace, you talk too much." Smeargle playfully clapped its paws, releasing a mysterious energy toward Gyarados. The normal type move Encore, which meant Gyarados had no choice but to repeat its previous move. Wallace fell silent. Then use Aqua Tail. He had no other option now, he might as well go with it. Gyarados let out a fierce roar, its massive tail swirling with water as it lunged at Smeargle again. Plasma Fists. Dylan smirked. Smeargle's tail crackled with electricity, lightning arcing around its body before shooting out in a blinding bolt toward Gyarados. It was incredibly fast. Gyarados. Wallace's eyes widened. Boom! The electric blast struck Gyarados square in the chest, sending powerful surges of electricity coursing through its body. The moment the attack connected, lightning erupted around Gyarados, causing it to let out an agonized roar. A priority electric-type move, Plasma Fists. Gyarados had a quadruple weakness to electric-type attacks. Even with Smeargle's low offensive stats, the +2 special attack boost made a huge difference. Plasma Fists hit like a truck. What is this move? And this damn dog? Wallace was beyond frustrated. This Plasma Fists, he had never seen an electric-type move like this before. The attack was too fast, definitely a priority move. Plasma Fists is Zeraora's signature move. A very solid electric-type attack. Dylan explained with a smile. Return, Gyarados. Wallace immediately recalled Gyarados. If he kept it in, Smeargle would take it down without a scratch. Wallace refused to let that happen. He wasn't going to lose like this, he was sure he could defeat this damn dog. No, it wasn't a Smeargle, it was a Smeardog. Smart choice. But Wallace, if you don't find a way to counter my Smeargle, you won't stand a chance in this match. Dylan tilted his head slightly. In truth, his Smeargle knew mean look as well. But he figured he shouldn't go too overboard, there was an audience, after all. Wouldn't want to make Wallace rage quit in front of a crowd. Dylan, I already have a strategy. Wallace had regained his composure. After seeing his Ludicolo and Gyarados fall apart so quickly, he had learned his lesson. Milotic. It's your turn. Without hesitation, Wallace sent out his ace. A soft, melodious cry filled the air as a beautiful, cream-colored sea serpent appeared on the battlefield. Milotic coiled its elegant body, its large red eyes calm and focused as it gazed at Smeargle. Deep Milotic, Water type, the tender Pokemon. Ability, Marvel Scale. Moves, Hydro Pump, Blizzard, Surf, Rain Dance, Safeguard, Recover, Attract. Description, it is said to dwell near large lakes. Known as the most beautiful Pokemon, it has inspired many paintings and sculptures.
There was no denying it, Milotic was breathtaking.
Even Lily adored it. A Milotic, huh?
Once I build my water-type team, I'll have to train one as well.
Dylan looked at the majestic sea serpent. It wasn't just about Milotic's strength, it was gorgeous.
Though in Dylan's opinion, nothing could compare to the beauty of his Reshiram.
But Milotic was definitely one of the most aesthetically pleasing Pokémon in the world.
It had even been ranked as the most beautiful Pokémon at one point.
Oh Dylan, you have excellent taste. Wallace's eyes lit up. If you're interested in Milotic, I have a spare Phoeba, it's one of Milotic's offspring. I can give it to you.
Wallace was generous. Phoeba itself wasn't extremely rare. Pokédex entries even stated that Phoeba were abundant in some regions. But finding a good Phoeba was another story. Gyarados could be found in the wild fairly often, mainly because Magikarp were everywhere and evolved easily.
But Milotic's evolution requirements were far stricter.
Phoeba were far less common than Magikarp, and as a result, wild Milotic were almost non-existent. But a Phoeba from Wallace's own Milotic would undoubtedly have excellent potential.
With proper training, it would definitely evolve.
Then I'll gladly accept, Wallace.
Dylan nodded.
He wouldn't refuse, but he also knew he'd have to return the favor somehow.
Couldn't just take a free Phoeba without offering something in return. Now, let's continue the battle, Dylan. Let me show you the strength of my Milotic.
Wallace's fighting spirit burned brightly. He had finally found a way to deal with Smeargle.
Milotic, use Safeguard.
Milotic let out a soft cry, a mystical energy shimmering around it, forming a protective barrier. For the next several turns, Milotic would be immune to status conditions. Wallace wasn't worried about burns. Marvel Scale actually made Milotic tankier when inflicted with a status condition.
His real concern was Dark Void's sleep effect. If Milotic got put to sleep, things could go very badly.
So, Safeguard was his best option.
Imprison. Dylan chuckled and spoke two simple words. Smeargle swung its paintbrush-like tail once again, its body glowing with a faint shimmer.
A large X materialized in the air before swiftly striking itself.
Psychic-type move, Imprison.
Wallace's eyes widened in shock as he stared at Dylan in disbelief.
Hiss. Among the spectators, those who understood what just happened collectively gasped. This was just too ruthless. He actually used Imprison?
Imprison, the user seals its own learned moves, preventing opponents from using the same moves in battle.
This. Even Cynthia was stunned. Dylan's strategy is just so considerate.
Steven stroked his chin and sighed.
On the battlefield. Milotic, use Hydro Pump? Wallace finally snapped out of his shock, though his eye was twitching uncontrollably.
He hesitantly called out a command. Milotic opened its mouth, attempting to fire off a hydro pump, but not even a single drop of water formed. It tried several times but couldn't generate any energy. Milotic turned toward Wallace, its elegant face filled with confusion, panic, and betrayal.
It couldn't use Hydro Pump? Blizzard? Milotic shook its head. Ice Beam? Milotic shook its head again. Surf? Milotic looked like it was about to cry.
Wallace tried command after command, but not a single move worked. His mind was going blank.
What is? Water gun?
Wallace grabbed his own hair in frustration. Water gun, one of the most basic water-type moves. He hadn't told Milotic to use water gun since he reached champion level.
Milotic opened its mouth, trying desperately to at least shoot a water gun. Nothing. It couldn't even use water gun.
Wallace stood there, completely stunned.
Dylan. Are you even human? Wallace glared at Dylan in disbelief. This guy, is he really human? Even water gun was sealed? There was literally no way to fight back.
Wallace, that's a little rude. I only made a tiny adjustment to my strategy.
Dylan spread his hands innocently. Your Milotic is your ace, after all. It's a very dangerous Pokemon. I thought it deserved proper respect.
Dylan sighed dramatically, as if Wallace had wronged him.
But Wallace's face turned blue. Proper respect? You sealed every attack move I had. At least leave me with one move, Dylan. Wallace felt lightheaded.
He was a water-type champion-level trainer.
And yet, his ace Pokemon, his beloved Milotic, couldn't use a single attack. How many moves has your Smeargle even sketched? Dylan paused, deep in thought. For a moment, he genuinely couldn't remember.
Actually, there are still plenty of moves my Smeargle hasn't sketched yet.
Dylan was sure about that.
For example? Wallace asked suspiciously.
Tackle.
Wallace fell silent.
Come on, Wallace, attack me however you like. Dylan grinned confidently and gestured grandly, inviting Wallace to attack.
Watching the man before him, Wallace's fingers twitched beneath his elegant cape.
No. Calm down. Hitting people is illegal. As Hoenn's champion, he couldn't afford to lose his composure. Stay calm. Stay composed. Wallace took deep breaths, trying desperately to regain control of his emotions. No problem. No problem at all. He could still win.
And so, the graceful and elegant champion of Hoenn gave the boldest command of his career.
Milotic. Use tackle. Milotic, slam the damn dog into the ground.
That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.